Have you ever seen a woman walk into a room and everyone can feel her presence? She doesn't need to raise her voice, over explain, or be the loudest in the room. She's soft but not a pushover, feminine but never foolish, calm, magnetic, and fully grounded in who she is. That is the power of a wise woman. A wise woman is in tune with her femininity, not just in how she dresses or speaks, but in how she moves through life. She knows how to use her softness as strength, her intuition as strategy, and her silence as power. She listens deeply and never chases what's already hers. But here's the truth: most of us were not taught how to be this version of ourselves. We were taught to hustle, prove, argue, perform, and left us burned out, powerless, reactive, and disconnected from who we really are. That's why in today's video, I am sharing 7 micro habits of a wise feminine woman. The small shifts that build emotional mastery, increase your magnetism, and help you become someone that moves with elegance and conviction. If you're new here, hi, I'm Samira. This channel is all about building a soft, faith-aligned life and building a business as a woman in your 30s. I talk about feminine energy, mindset, business, and becoming the woman you've always known you were meant to be, without the burnout and without the noise. If this speaks to you, hit that subscribe button and let's get into it. Let's talk about being magnetic, not by doing more, but by mastering the inner world of a wise woman. Let's start with micro habit number 1. A wise woman doesn't project, she listens first. A wise woman has enough self-awareness to not project her personal pain onto others. You've probably met women that take everything personally. Someone shares a win, they feel offended. Someone opens up about a struggle, they make it about them. This usually comes from wounds that haven't been addressed. Because if you can't hold space for yourself, how can you hold space for others? But a wise woman, she pauses, she listens, she responds, not react. And people trust her for it. Let's say, for example, your friend is starting a new relationship. She's getting serious with someone new. And you respond with, "Are you sure? Isn't it too soon? What if he's not who he says he is?" This might sound like a valid concern, but often this is fear talking. Your fear, your past, your pain. Usually, how you react comes from a pain that you've experienced in the past, a fear that you may have. And how does a wise woman react to a friend talking about her new relationship? That's exciting. How do you feel about it? She asks before assuming. She builds connection, not distance. Learning to pause and respond with curiosity changes everything. There were many instances where I would project wounds onto friends and I wasn't aware of this. I remember a close friend of mine was telling me that she has met someone and it's pretty serious and there's a chance she might move countries for him. Because I had experienced hardships of moving to a different country and a lot of challenges in my first year of marriage, moving from one country to another, I immediately started projecting fears that she might have to go through the same thing. This caused tension between us because she felt like I wasn't supportive. Without knowing it, I was filtering through her joy with my fears. After that, she really struggled sharing things with me about her relationship, and now I understand why. I was projecting my fears onto her excitement of starting a new relationship. These days, I pause before I speak. I try to lead with curiosity and support first, because wise women do not project their wounds onto other people. They hold space for others without judgment. This shift has made my friendships a lot stronger. Micro habit number 2. A wise woman does not jump to assumptions. She gets clarity first. A wise woman does not spiral at the first sign of discomfort. She doesn't write entire storylines in her head based on one vague comment, one missed call, or one awkward interaction. She's grounded, curious, and magnetic. She doesn't let her emotions control the narrative. We all know how easy it is to react out of fear. One late reply and you're convinced that he's lost interest. You see a friend hanging out with someone that you don't trust and you immediately assume they are replacing you. A small disagreement happens and you immediately start rehearsing an exit speech. And here's the truth: frantic women burn bridges, and wise women build perspective. A high value woman asks questions. She gathers context instead of creating chaos. Let's say, for example, you see one of your friends post on her story with someone that you've had issues with in the past. Instead of immediately assuming that she's gossiping or choosing sides, a wise woman response would be, "Hey, I saw you with her. Out of curiosity, how do you know her? What was that event about?" She opens space for clarity instead of jumping to assumptions. There was a time if someone didn't respond the way I was expecting them to respond through text, I'd replay the conversation over and over again. I'd convince myself that something was wrong, when nothing had really changed. But I've learned the hard way that assumptions kill intimacy, but clarity protects it. Now I pause. I ask questions. I choose emotional maturity, even when it's uncomfortable, because I want connection, not fear based stories. Microhabit number three: a wise woman manages her thoughts. She doesn't let them manage her. A wise woman curates her inner world. She knows that what she repeats, focuses on, dwells on, becomes her reality. She's very careful with her thoughts and what she says over and over again. When a spiral hits, she doesn't sit in it. She journals, she reframes, she resets. Let's say, for example, if you're a mom, your child is going crazy, having a meltdown, and your thought immediately goes to, I'm such a failure, I'm such a bad mom, I can't control my own kid. But that's not the truth. The night before, you didn't sleep well because your son wasn't feeling well, and you're just experiencing fatigue, and he too is tired. And it's just a tough situation. It doesn't mean that you're a bad mom. A wise woman response would be, this is a hard moment, but this is not a reflection of who I am. Another example from my personal story is that when I worked at a 9 to 5 and I made a mistake or had an issue, I would spiral. I'd say, oh my gosh, I'm replaceable. They're going to hire someone else. Or I'm so behind. I wish I was as smart as my coworkers to get the work done faster. It took a lot of mindset work to believe my value isn't my output, it's in my being. So, in conclusion, you are not your worst thought. You are not your loudest fear. You are who you choose to be. You are who you choose to believe you are, especially in the quiet, messy moments. Micro habit number 4: a wise woman protects her peace, not her ego. A wise woman never argues with someone that refuses to understand her. She doesn't get petty in group chats. She doesn't post passive aggressive posts online. And she doesn't over explain herself to people who are committed to misunderstanding her. Why? Because her peace is more important than being right. Let's say you're chatting with your friends and you share your dream, and that friend mocks it. You could sit there for 10 minutes defending yourself. Or you could just smile and pivot. A wise woman response would be, it's something I'm passionate about. End of sentence. In the past, when I was creating content, I would get a lot of wise, personal opinions or suggestions of what I should film instead. I'd find myself over explaining and trying to get people to get that this is what I want to talk about. Now I know I don't owe anyone an explanation. Only God gets the full vision. So, in conclusion, every moment you waste on defending your worth is a moment taken away from building your peace. You do not need to be understood by everyone. You need to be aligned with your purpose. Micro habit number 5. This one might ruffle feathers. She honors strong, masculine leadership. She doesn't compete with it, she complements it. This is a personal opinion, but I do believe an unwise woman make comments like, I don't need a man. Men are the problem. Because a woman sees the value of a good father, brothers, sons, men in society. She doesn't try to be both the masculine and feminine in a relationship. She chooses balance, not battle. For example, some women believe submission is a weakness, but the wise woman sees it as discernment. She follows a man that follows God, not blindly, but wisely. Growing up in a house full of brothers, I resisted asking them for help. I thought needing them made me weak because at that time, as a millennial woman, feminism was at its peak. I thought needing them made me weak, and that showed up in my marriage. I'd resist my husband's leadership, even though he was doing a great job. I had to unlearn that trust is strength, not control. So, in conclusion, a wise woman doesn't lose power in partnership. She expands it. She knows healthy masculine energy is not her enemy. It's a complement for her feminine brilliance. Micro habit number 6. A wise woman believes that gossip, envy are low frequencies. A wise woman is very careful of every environment that she's in because she's cultivating her energy. She's not in the group chat discussing someone else's life. She's not comparing or secretly hating. She knows that envy lowers vibration and gossip clouds her spirit. For example, you're in a group chat and everyone is tearing someone down. You laugh, but later you feel off. How a wise woman would react in this situation? She gracefully exits the conversation and changes the topic. She knows that gossip costs too much and that her peace is too precious. She's very aware of the fact that if she were to engage with gossiping or envying or just simply hating, this lowers her frequency and just attracts bad energy for herself. For example, I knew some friends where most of our conversations were rooted in gossip. It made us feel close. It's the only thing that we could entertain ourselves with, but it also made me feel hollow. Now, I'd rather sit in silence with a woman who uplifts me than laugh loudly with those who don't know how to love others out loud. And in conclusion, you don't need to lower your voice to be included. You need to raise your standard and let your energy speak for itself. Some women thrive off gossip, and a wise room response would just be not laughing at the jokes that they make, staying quiet or not engaging. Furthermore, that speaks negatively about someone else because a wise woman knows that if someone spends a lot of time discussing other people's hardships or downfalls or even making fun of it, she knows that person has a lot of time on her hands and nothing serious of her own. She honestly feels bad for that person because they're operating in low frequency and just attracting negative energy for themselves. For example, karma. Lastly, microhabit number 7, a wise woman is always learning. A wise woman is a forever student. She doesn't have to be the smartest person in the room. She's just always curious. She's constantly reading books, she's listening to podcasts, and she just asks better questions. She trades arrogance for humility, and she grows faster because of it. For example, instead of scrolling mindlessly on her phone, she reads a book. Instead of judging a perspective, she asks, what can I learn from this? Lately, I've been learning to just slow down and be off my phone. I have an entire video about the effects of doom scrolling and how it's taking away our precious energy and stopping us from our soft life. Now, I am very aware of the kind of content that I consume and make sure that I learn something that gives me value. Because as a YouTuber now, I want to teach not from burnout, but I want to teach from overflow. In conclusion, a woman that is always getting herself out of her comfort zone, growing as a person, will never feel stuck because every page she reads, every lesson she learns becomes a seed for her future. Now, I'm very aware that you don't become a wise woman or wisdom doesn't come overnight. However, the wise woman is within you. It's just a matter of making a mindset shift, an identity shift, of just stepping into this version of yourself that's very wise and always makes the right decisions. And it's not about being perfect, it's about being intentional, being willing to pause, take your time, not in a rush, reflect. You'll end up choosing better choices for yourself moment by moment. Because when you embody these 7 micro habits, you start showing up differently. You don't need to chase, you don't need to beg, you don't need to prove, and you don't need to perform. You become the kind of woman whose presence speaks for itself, calm, composed, clear in what she wants, with strong conviction, and just truly magnetic. This is a soft power that many of us were never taught. But now that you've seen it, you gotta practice it. If you're watching this, I truly believe it's because you're ready to evolve, ready to stop being reactive and be more radiant, ready to protect your peace and walk in wisdom, not just for you, but also for your relationships, your family, your purpose. Here's what I recommend. Start small, rewatch this video, pick one habit to practice this week. Second, journal about it. Reflect on how it would feel to be this kind of woman day by day. And if anything resonated with you, I'd love to have you on this journey with me. Subscribe for more conversations on feminine wisdom, identity healing, and building a soft, purposeful, powerful life from within. And if you're ready to dive deeper, check out my other videos on my channel. You're not behind, you're becoming. And everything you desire is drawn to the woman that you're becoming. I'll see you at my next video.